Hello YouTube, welcome to Fine Day, and today we are going to have a look at Feldon Ronom Excavator in Historic Brawl. This deck aims to win by reducing the opponent's life total to 0 as quickly as possible. It is mono-red aggro. So, our commander, Feldon Ronom Excavator, is a 2-mana 2-2 with haste and can't block, we don't mind. And then whenever Feldon is dealt damage, exile that many cards from the top of your library, choose one of them until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. So, Feldon is the cheapest, best mono-red card for an aggressive deck, and that is why Feldon is, in my opinion, currently the best commander for mono-red aggro. So, what do I mean by cheap? Well, obviously low mana cost, right? But other people have experimented with things like Chandra Dress to Kill and had some competitive success in tournaments with it, or in competitive leagues, I should say. And that is cool and all, but Feldon is a better commander. Why is that? Here is the very, very important principle that applies here. In mono-red aggro, your commander replaces a slot on the curve. If you have a 2-drop commander, that means that you're really not playing any 2-drops. The only 2-drops we're playing are Bloodthirsty Adversary, which can come down later with additional value, Cemetery Gatekeeper, which has it has a different application in Feldon, and Eidolon of the Great Revel, because that card is just even better than Feldon on curve. Everything else is basically 1 in 3 drops in this deck. If our commander is a 3-drop, for example Chandra Dress to Kill, then the same principle would apply. We would need to up the 2-drop count and then lower the amount of 3-drops we could play. So we would definitely cut like Tomakul Phoenix, Seasoned Pyromancer, and what this basically does is, like, because we have Feldon, we have a higher average card quality than a deck that uses Chandra Dress to Kill as a commander. And that is basically the reason why Feldon is so good. Like, mono-red aggro does not want to rely on its commander. It just wants to play individually aggressive cards. And if the average card quality of those cards increases, your commander is doing a pretty good job just by being cheap. And Feldon is just good because, you know, it's a haste creature, and the card advantage is really, really relevant as well. Where, like, obviously, Lightning Bolt or Damaging Board Wipes, you get a few cards, but the fact that if the opponent has a blocker and is at like 4 life, they don't really want to take another hit from Feldon, but what you force them to block Feldon, so you will get a card back, and that card could be something like an Uthgar's Fury, dealing 4 damage to the opponent. So in the late game, Feldon just digs you deep and finds you those missing burn pieces. About burn. We would like to have more burn in the deck than we currently do, but we can't because we're already basically using all of it. So for a burn spell to be good, in this specific deck, it needs to do more damage than it costs mana, or have some additional utility like not static discharge. It's electrostatic blast that effectively replaces itself later, right? So more damage than mana cost. That is the big thing about all these burn spells, and they need to go face. They absolutely need to go face. You won't see something like Strangle in here. If it doesn't go face, I don't care. That, you know, it's mono-red. We want to go face. That is our goal, right? And we just don't have enough burn spells on Arena to make that happen, which is why we play some filler cards like Antagonize and Infuriate that are just even more above rate, where it's 1 mana for 3 damage and then 2 mana for 4 damage. The issue with these is that the burn spells come in a spot where you don't have creatures, or like to do the last points of damage. Like you're usually committing the creatures to the board before you play the burn spells, and then you attack in, attack in, attack in, then they wipe the board, and then you finish them off with the burn spells. And like these pump spells don't really help you in that scenario, but they're basically here for just filler. Then, you know, loads of 3-drops, loads of 1-drops. We have a 2-drop in the command zone, and that is really it. And we really don't want to go higher on the mana curve. Chandra, Torch of Defiance is definitely the best thing you can do. And we're also testing out one card today that I have not played with previously, and that is Traumatic Prank. Other people that have tested this deck said that it performed very, very well. And yeah, but they basically tested it, said it's great, so we're trying it. Steal a creature, can't block for the rest of the game, deals damage to them. Seems really solid to, you know, bring in the last couple of points of damage. If you're playing, for example, against an Atraxa, it's usually coming down to the turn where they play Atraxa, then do you have enough burn spells to finish them off through that, or will the Life Linker take over the game? But Traumatic Prank just says, hey, steal your Atraxa and murder you. So that is pretty neat. We're running 40 lands, which is pretty high. But the reason for that is that we don't really have better cards to put in. Again, we are like really scratching the surface of the critical mass that we want to achieve, but we're not quite there yet. But also, you're kind of fine if you're flat out a little bit, just because you have so much card advantage in this deck. Like, it doesn't look like a lot, but you have so many things to do with your mana. You can redraw with Seasoned Pyromancer, you can bring back your Phoenixes, you can activate Feldon, you can jumpstart risk factors. There are really a lot of things you can do in this deck with your mana, and yeah, not hitting, like you really want to go up to 3 lands and then you don't care at that point, but not hitting a 3rd land drop can be a bit brutal because you have so many high quality 3-drops in your deck. Anyways, that is Feldon Ronom Excavator. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, consider liking it, subscribing to the channel is also appreciated, and join the Discord. It is free. We have a great community there, lots of like cool and interesting brews, and yeah, let's do this. We are ready to play against Koth, Fire of Resistance, and in general this should be a very favorite matchup where mono-red control doesn't have much to stop the burn from mono-red burn. Usually we really want to mulligan towards a 1-drop to put on pressure. It's very important to mull for a 1-drop, and Melt Through is not a 1-drop. Like, it's not a card we play on turn 1. The one reason to keep this is Utgar's Fury, because the card is just so insane in this kind of matchup, where, you know, that makes it so, like, they can't really deal with enchantments, and it just means if they have a 4 toughness creature, now their 3 damage board wipes actually affect their creatures. But it's just too important to have a proactive turn 1 play. And this is basically the same hand with a 1-drop. Amazing. Love it. So let's turn creatures sideways. Also, my current record is like, I think I played 100 games with this list, and it was like 50 games, but I played at around 84% win rate in my sample size, not 100. I think it was only 50 or 60 games. But I found, you know, it is true what they say. Mono-red is not as brain dead as people think. There are some really interesting decisions, and especially since the format is 25 instead of 20 life, you really feel that there were so many games that would have been over way sooner, or, you know, some of them I even lost because of 25 instead of 20 life. And then just like very, very little decisions can make the difference. So yeah, they shoot down the commander, and we get a card, and we're likely going to take a land here. Yeah, so let's play some cards. I don't think it is time for the Utgard's Fury. Again, we want to delay the burn. And one of these more interesting decisions, again, was to take the Encore Crusher over Feldon, where we could have taken the Crusher for more damage, but the additional land drops really helps us here, especially since Feldon is... Since Feldon is just easily recastable and likely gives us cards. So Pass the Torch versus Urabrask's Forge. Pass the Torch deals 4 damage in this spot. So we deal 6, they go down 6, 7, 8, and then they die to Utgard's Fury. Yeah, seems good. So the idea here is pass the torch, select the bloodthirsty bloodthirsty adversary. And then yep, that triggers the torch. And then since we top deck skewer the critics, we have lethal. Otherwise I would have probably just played a Soul-Scar Mage. But yeah, that is game and lethal on turn 5. Pretty cool. GG. We are ready to play against Minsk and Boo, Timeless Heroes. And this can be a bit tricky. We are on the play though, and Traumatic Prank is great in this matchup. But it's not going to be a turn 3 play. We could mold this, but I think since we're on the play with the Bomat Courier, I kind of like it. Where the Bomat Courier can help, we can aggressively dump our hand. And then Bomat Courier helps us refill. No turn 1 play from them. That's great, honestly. So next turn, depends if they play a creature or not in this spot. No creature, okay. So let's play Scamp first and then the Curse. So that way Scamp gets a counter and we can... Like, the idea behind Scamp is that it's a 1-drop haster, but it can also just provide a little bit of reach in the late game. It's decent. So, yeah. Bomat Courier growing. Captain Lannery Storm, sure. That is totally fine. And yeah, let's swing in with everything. We're going to save this Traumatic Prank for... Maybe we're supposed to steal it, right? But I assume that... Like, now we can just dump the Bomat Courier. So I didn't use the Infuriate because I felt like they had a shock. And then if they shock in response to this Infuriate, that is kind of a disaster. So yeah, I wasn't really a fan of that line. And I feel like we can get the 3 damage in from the Infuriate anyways later on. Where, like, we draw 1 card and then that card likely gets discarded to the Bomat Courier. Very tricky. But maybe we were supposed to just Infuriate the Feldon. It's... Yeah, just like go to Traumatic Prank on Lannery, attack, and then after we get the treasure, we can Infuriate Feldon, so we never have a missed spot where we couldn't activate Bomat Courier. Yeah, I feel like that was even a better play. Yeah, now we just got punished by this line. I think a random 4 is better than these 3. Yeah, I think stealing Lannery, attacking after creating the treasure but before damage, infuriating. Yeah, seemed a bit better. Okay, that hand is very much not great, but we dig 4 cards deep. Do we want a Grim Lavamancer or just... I do like the Lavamancer. It is the most amount of reach we can get here. So, deal damage. Yeah, they could have been at like... Yeah, 6 less life. They could have been at 5 in this spot. Yeah. That wasn't great. No, we could have also spent the treasure, so they would have been at 4 in this spot. Yeah, would have felt much more comfortable if the opponent was at 4. See, deck is unironically hard to play in my opinion. Yeah, we're kind of flooding. It happens if we have 40 lands, but at the same time, we can't just freely swing in with Feldon each and every turn effectively, and either it gives us card advantage or deals damage. The only two things we care about: damage and card advantage. So, Minsk and Boo comes down, creates a hamster, puts counter on the hamster. Sure. Don't attack, I assume? Nope. Oh, that's pretty good, honestly. Yep. Play these and attack with everything. If they block the Feldon, we can just kill the hamster, but that is not too great of a line. They were scared. The other issue is with blocking the Feldon here is that you just give me card advantage, right? But the 1 additional damage also does matter a lot. So they would have been dead if I had taken the better line here. But oh well. Curse, I feel like the Curse of Shaken Fate does some work here. Like, generally speaking, Curse of Shaken Fate is worth it if the opponent triggers it twice and again. That is when the card becomes really solid. And if it only triggers once and then the opponent makes suboptimal plays, I think that's also a pretty good spot. The opponent could just draw 5 here, but instead they will opt to... Well, they could just still draw 5, right? Attack with everything, but maybe they just want to grow the Boo. Currently they have to use their Domri to fight the Lavamancer, otherwise they're just dead on board, where Lavamancer in their end step, Lavamancer on my turn, attack with Phoenix Chick. Yeah.
We have mastered.
Deal 2 Two-Face. Don't need these. Currently the opponent is at 1 life. Where we can activate the Castle Embereth. Yeah, and that is actually lethal. Attack everything face. And then in this spot they have to block the Feldon, likely with the hamster, and we still get to look 5 cards deep, right? Like, I guarantee you that there's probably 1 damage in that pile here. Yeah, turns out there is indeed 1 damage in that pile. So, Royal Eruption, and that is the game. GG. We are ready to play against Toulouse Clever Conductor. Yeah, his hand is pretty mediocre. Let's ship this. 1-drop that we can play. There is a 1-drop we can play. 1, 2, 3. We have removal for their commander. Not that it matters too much. Yeah, Let's play some magic. Preferably not too long because we're playing mono red. Okay, third land and we are good to go. All attack. So, the opponent's deck is pretty interesting, where they are going to use madness cards maybe, but then also like they just discard stuff and then get it back for value, things like that. Their cycling specifically is pretty good with Toulouse. When you cycle away a card and then you get it into your hand later. Serum Snare, card to hand, sure. And let's activate Mishra's Bauble to redraw. The reason why we're doing this in their upkeep is we still get to see what they draw for turn, but if they play Thoughtseize, they don't get the option of looking at the card or whatever card is on top right now. Well, what did I tell you? That's why we crack the Bauble in the upkeep. So let's see. What do they take? Tomakul Phoenix is completely irrelevant to discard because we can cast it for 3 mana from the graveyard either way. So it doesn't matter if Tomakul Phoenix is in the hand or the graveyard, really. So we redraw and let's see what the opponent couldn't look at. It's a Falkenrath Pit Fighter. They likely wouldn't have taken that card, but it's still pretty nice. So, also, countering a Tomakul Phoenix is pretty cool, where, you know, it's a 3 mana 2/2 Flying Haste, but then if you counter it, it never died, so it's still only 2 power in the graveyard, and you can recast it for 3 mana. So, that's pretty neat. Shadow the Sky. Okay. And I believe we just lead on Feldon now. We still have a bunch of burn in our hand. We're using this Infuriate at the first chance we get, but not sure when that chance will be. Because like if we top deck a land, then we're likely going Feldon on 4, turn 5, bring back the Phoenix. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. Let's see. Oh, Traumatic Prank. Let's see how good that card is in this match. Nope. Swing in for 2. If they just play a creature, like the first creature they play, we are going to steal with a Traumatic Prank. Because then that creature won't be able to block, so we really don't care about it. And what's also really nice is that we just get to... the creature just deals more and more damage. So let's steal it. Yeah. Decline. And then the question is if we use Infuriate. So they will... Let's assume they take at least 2 additional damage from Toulouse. So we're on upkeep. So this is 6. They go down to 10. Go down to 8. This is... Yeah, I think it is worth it to Infuriate now over developing the board, because we just have so much damage in hand. Like we have Pillar of Flame deals 2, Lightning Strike deals 3, and then Risk Factor always draws 3 for 3 mana to find more burn, because they can't take 4 from Risk Factor, otherwise they die. So that is pretty neat. Also, you know, if Feldon just gets to attack, they die. So, Command Zone, remove perpetual effects. Okay. Yeah, let's use the Ambergris. Nope, decline. Swing in, decline. Pillar of Flame. And the opponent is dead. The opponent is dead. GG. Well, maybe they gain life at instant speed, and then I eat my words. But I don't think they can come back from this realistically. Yep. We are ready to play against Atraxa Grand Unifier. So, what are we looking at? We're looking at a 1-drop, 2-drop in Command Zone, 3-drop Ironclad Crasher. Crasher specifically, I kind of don't want to play on curve. I want to play the Ironclad Crasher after they play the Atraxa, because in the Atraxa matchup it's usually they ramp, then they play Atraxa, we have one more turn to work with, and then we lose because Atraxa attacks. But Ironclad Crasher making it so Atraxa can't block usually wins the game. But maybe Dragon Rage Chandra is just not good enough of a 1-drop. Like, I would keep this because of Ironclad Crasher, but I think we can do better. Okay. Yes. Good at mulliganing. That much is clear. Yep. We have a haste 1-drop that is arguably better than Dragon Rage's Chandler, because also has the potential to grow. We could go Scamp plus Voldaren Epicure, but I think it is maybe better to Feldon. Although, like, Scamp Epicure plays around removal better. Yeah. So, let's see. Kind of... Oh yeah, it is 1-drop time. It is 1-drop time. So let's order this correctly. Kumano. Then we swing in with everything. And then we drop the Epicure post-combat. We kind of want to draw land as well. If the opponent has a board wipe, that could be somewhat of an issue, but we still have the Kumano faces Kakkazan. Yeah, and just the touch the Spirit Realm, spot removal. We did get rewarded for the plays we did. Season Pyro, I'm not sure if we're supposed to play this into a wipe specifically. Curse of Shaken Faith is a bit weird, where the card is not great versus Atraxa. I think there is pretty unlikely to double spell, and if that's the case, we can discard it to the blood token. Or the Season Pyro. Yeah, you know what? I think I like going for... Like, they didn't have a board wipe here. Otherwise, they would have used it, in my opinion. So let's just go for Pyromancer, discard Royal Eruption and Curse. And then pass the turn. Like, this is already good enough of a board. Scorch Spitter doesn't need to be there. Yeah, now we can discard it. Like, against the Cavalier specifically, yeah, I would have loved a Scorch Spitter on the field. But again, it's like... if they top deck the wipe here, could have been a bit problematic, right? Okay. And we swing in with a bunch of creatures. They block the Season Pyro. Sure. And this is a spot where, you know, Ironclad Crasher will come in handy. Reverse Rebuke, sure. That is totally acceptable. How do we do this? We could deal 4 damage now with the Scamp plus Crasher, and then next turn Kumano. That's not enough. That can't be enough. How do we do this then? We could just play 1-drops. What does that get us? So 1 damage now. Crasher. Like, I expect them to play Atraxa next turn, and then I want the Crasher, right? How do we deal the most amount of damage? I assume it's just dumping all the 1-drops into play. We could also lead on Impulse, hoping to fade a land and then play one less of these. But I think this is how we do it. So Scamp, Epicure, Courier. Not attacking with Courier, just, you know, letting it sit here. Maybe we were supposed to, instead of playing the Courier, just use the blood token to discard a Flame of Keld. I think that was a reasonable thing to do as well. They shock, and they're dead. Nice. Well, Pact of Negation. If they have a Pact of Negation in that pile, they could still win. No Pact of Negation. Maybe it's an ant? Who knows? So, I think we'll lead on Feldon. Yep. Ironcrop Crasher. All attack, and then specifically you want to click on this and then click exert as well, and then if the arrow is here, it is exerted. So now this. Ataraxa can't block, and that is lethal. GG. We are ready to play against Ataraxa Grand Unifier. Bit too land heavy, no one drop. Let's mull. Bit too land heavy, no one drop. Well, that's fine. Rampaging Ferocity is fine as well. I think we can put away the Bloodthirsty Adversary, as it doesn't do too much for us. Yep. And we obviously want to draw the third land. Well, goodbye Rampaging Ferocity if I had to guess. Or maybe they value the Bone Crusher Giant being a 2-for-1. Seems to be the case. Now we're kind of in a rough spot. Yeah, let's say we're in kind of a rough spot. Sanctum Weaver. Okay. Oh, it's very tempting to deny them the mana. I think that's what I'm going to do. And while we're at it, I'm going to equip this Rabbit Battery to Feldon, because that's still the same damage per turn, but this survives a board wipe. Yep. Deal additional damage. Not sure if I was supposed to just play Ferocidon and not respect them effectively. Witness Protection. Okay, sure. Shrinks Feldon by 1. Go in. We play the Phoenix series because if we top deck a land next turn, oh yeah. If we top deck a land next turn, we could have gone Ferocidon, Give It Haste with Rabbit Battery. A land would have also been an amazing top deck to bring back this Phoenix. But no such luck. We're playing Kumano faces Kakkazan here because, you know, if we they will just discard it to the Elspeth's Nightmare anyways. And if we top deck a land, we can still just go Ferocidon and equip. And I think that is... So this puts them to 1. This puts them to 1 as well. So let's do this. And this utilizes the graveyard that's about to get exiled. Yep. So they exile the graveyard. We got our Phoenix back, which is great. They're at 1. They can't do too much here because even a board wipe will leave them dead, because then we still have a Rabbit Battery on the field. GG. We are ready to play against Lagrella the Magpie. Yeah, no one drop play. Don't like it. Lagrella can be a bit annoying. this is removal for their commander. It costs 3 mana. We usually want to trade up in mana on removal, so it's not great, but I think it's passable. The thing here is, we could mold to 6, but I would keep this on 6, I think. So let's keep this on 7. Lead on Scorch Spitter. Also, for the record, Luke99HS, I believe, is on my server. You should definitely join that Discord server. So, Scorch Spitter, Feldon, attacking in. 4 damage a turn. Spirited Companion. Well. This is quite an interesting spot. I think we're just going to Ironcrop Crasher and attack without exerting and then let the trade happen. But if they don't trade, I think that's also a very reasonable play for them, because what ends up happening is, like, you play these cantripping 2-drops in order to hide them under Ligrella on turn 3. And then, like, you play land and then hide the companion and then, you know, remove something. So there is some value here in keeping up the mana for the Slaying Fire. I think the opponent could have a Swords to Plowshares or something similar. So let's give them priority. There is a Swords to Plowshares. And then we're going to buff a creature with Build to Smash. So yeah, good call exiling the Ironcrop Crusher. Not only because it was the highest damage there, but you know, card is pretty annoying for creature decks to deal with. Ligrella, I assume, hits Feldon or the Sawblade Scamp. I think it should hit Feldon. And then the question is, do we hide away the do we put it to command zone? I think we're not going to spend the damage to try to kill Ligrella, which is why we are going to just recast Feldon later on. And then I quite like playing Eidolon here and then passing the turn. I'm playing around a counterspell, and that, like, I'm going to use Slaying Fire in their end step. So now we're going to ping them down. With this, yep. With the Sawblade Scamp and the Slaying Fire. Before they return the Arcane Signet, I think I'm going to do all the things. Slaying Fire. So Ligrella returns, and now what do you take here? Eidolon or Sawblade Scamp? Scamp seems to be the choice, sure. Yeah, let's Feldon, swing in. And then look 2 cards deep into our deck, I believe. Should block it with Ligrella. Like, well, yeah, I think you're not, like, yeah. Like, they could also block with Yorion if they think we want to kill the Ligrella, but yeah, I think Skewer the Critics is just better here. It's until the end of your next turn. So yeah, we're going to play this land drop now, because if we get a land off the top, we want to maybe do some other things. Okay, so Vivian of the Hunt plus gets a 4-drop. 5? No, I think they should sacrifice Yorion. No, they want to get a 5 or a 3-drop, because that's where their life gain is. Things like Uro and similar cards. Those are the cards they want. So, oh, they're running the Elite Guild Mage to gain life at 4. That's some sweet tech, and actually a really big issue. A really, really big issue. So, we have to kill the Guard Mage, because otherwise they start blinking it. It's not the play I want to do, but it's a play I have to do. At that point, why don't we also attack in with everything? Yeah. Could attack with everything. And then they kill the Eidolon. Is that worth it? I don't think it is. Like, we can't attack with Phoenix and Scamp, though. If they block Eidolon, they go down to 3. Kind of find a... Very, very tricky. This Vivian is going to be a nightmare. I think we have to maximize damage here, because if we swing him with Eidolon as well, that's 2 more damage this turn. Which means they have to play 2 spells under Eidolon in order for Eidolon to become better than what we're doing with this attack. But I also assume that the board will get clogged up. The advantage of doing this attack is also that we can keep a counter on Sawblade Scamp. Let's do it. And then they kill the Eidolon. Oh, they kill Phoenix. Okay, interesting. If they kill Phoenix, we can escape it. So, yeah, I think they should definitely go with Eidolon. I am really not certain if that was the correct play by me. I think we're just so incredibly in trouble now. Also, just saying, 25 versus 20 life mattering a lot. The reason why we're so in trouble is any 2-drop and any 4-drop effectively instantly loses us the game in this spot. Because a 2-drop gets upgraded to Uro with Vivian, and that just gains too much life. And a 4-drop gets upgraded to Thragtusk, which immediately gains 5 life on entering, and then if they blick the Thragtusk, the game is also just over. So, yeah, it is very, very rough. There's a 3-drop. That is, you know, not a 4-drop, not a 2-drop, but they still have the mana for a 2-drop. Yeah, maybe they did double spell.
Nature adapts to...
I'm really not certain if that attack was correct. We just did there. Timeless Witness bringing back Swords to Plowshares. Swords to Plowshares, your own Yorion. Is what I would do. If you Swords to Plowshares the Phoenix of Ash, you run into the issue of Burn Spell off the top kills you. Okay. So, yeah, let's just attack with the Phoenix of Ash. They block. I don't think we're going to activate, as funny as that is. Because we're just going to use that to grow the Phoenix again. And then one activation can kill the Yorion. Like, if we were to activate Phoenix here twice, then they just Swords to Plowshares, and we don't have mana to replay the Phoenix. So yeah, Vivian plus on Timeless Witness. Timeless Witness gets Thragtusk. Thragtusk gains 5 life on entering. They play Lagrella, exiling the Thragtusk. Or they go for a Cloud Blazer. Sure. I think... Well, that means that their hand isn't that great. Which I think is fine. But also just this Cloud Blazer is going to be a menace as well. Wall of Blossom. And then... Well, what then? What do you do then? Also, Wall of Blossom is incredibly annoying because it gets to block the Feldon without dealing damage. Very tricky spot. And given that they have the Swords to Plowshares, yeah, Cloud Blazer, Blink, they're gaining too much life here. I think we can pack it up. Yeah, that was a really cool game. Good showcase of what Ligrella can do. GG. We are done with the games. I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did. And Feldon Ronom Excavator is definitely a really great and fun deck. Aggro is very, very underrepresented in Historic Brawl. And if you want to dip into aggro, why not just do it with Mono Red? And I think you will enjoy it. At least I did. I think it is just really, really fun to just do something else than try to figure out combo lines all day. Although, you know, I could do that all day and I would have fun. But just, you know, basic math and then thinking ahead, they're really... It's a different skill set to play Mono Red, and I think it is a really, really fun archetype in Historic Brawl. If you want to play this deck on a budget, it's a bit rough. Traditionally, Mono Red is usually a budget deck when it comes to 60 card formats. This is not the case for Historic Brawl, where you're going to need a ward-off of a lot of cards, and you're going to dig deep into the card pool to reach the critical mass. Because Mono Red is a critical mass deck, but if you can only have one copy of each card, then you basically need to craft everything. Because, you know, we're only like scratching the surface here. So the cards you don't need, let's talk about those first. I think the creatures on 1 and 2 mana are what you don't need, because you can, like, there are some subpar 1-drops you can play in the 1-drop slot at common and uncommon. And then on 2 you don't actually need the creatures, you can just play Feldon. Although, like, they have some different applications, you don't need them. The cards you do need to craft, in my opinion, are the burn spells. Like, just the straight burn spells, nothing fancy like Curse of Shaken Faith, you don't need that. But, like, your lightning bolts, right? Your electrostatic blast, just anything that all basically guarantees damage. Like, Curse doesn't guarantee damage. Roiling Vortex, a pretty great card, does guarantee damage and disables life gain, which is really relevant. Those are the kinds of crafts you want. And then obviously the 3-drops. 3-drops are like the 3-drop creatures, or like proactive 3-drop plays are really strong in this deck and really important to the deck. And they're all almost rare in Mythic. Obviously, for the mana base, you can just run mountains. It's as simple as that. Like, you don't need any of these fancy lands. But the cards you want to craft, burn spells, and then 3-drop proactive threats. Things like really good threats are things like Squee, Dubious Monarch, Legion Warboss. You know, those are kind of the best ones. Seasoned Pyromancer is not as insane in this deck as it is in other decks, but it is really usable in other decks, which is great, I think. The Phoenixes are really solid. Utgard Fury is a pretty strong burn spell, 3 mana for damage, and then the damage is removed from creatures your opponent controls during cleanup steps is a really, really strong line of text. You shouldn't underestimate that. And then, you know, craft whatever you feel like at that point. Maybe a Chandra Acolyte of Flame, maybe a Chandra Dress to Kill, maybe Chandra Torch of Defiance. You can craft all kinds of Chandras. You can also just add like 2 more 4-drops. I wouldn't add more than 3 4-drops, so at a total of 4 4-drops. I wouldn't go higher than that, and I wouldn't play any other 5-drops. Just keep the curve as low as possible, and you should be golden. But again, it is not as budget as it is in 60 card constructed formats, because you do have to craft some weird and dubious stuff. Anyways, hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.